Hi guys, welcome to the third episode of Ringangetis with Stolo Dlamini. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for those who've been watching, those who've been subscribing. Let's keep the subscribing coming through, guys. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Last time I spoke to you guys about the derby and how excited I was about the derby, and I'm still excited, man. I'm excited that the derby played out the way it did, and yeah, it was just an entertaining match and with no, negatives. If the derby has a winner, I'm happy, regardless of whoever wins. If there's goals, there's a winner. Yeah, man, I'm happy. Big up to Pirates, shout out to them. They just dominated Chiefs. I think from the day the press conferences started about the game, going into the game, Pirates was just dominating, Even the game itself, Pirates were on top of Chiefs. There were instances where you thought Chiefs were coming back, but yeah, man, I think Pirates were solid and they did a great job in winning the derby. Let's quickly talk about, Chiefs. I think I don't understand this whole thing now of people coming in and saying the coach is changing too much and that's why it's breaking his team and all of those things. While a while back when he won 3 games in a row and everyone was praising him for changing his starting lineup and winning with different lineups, But I do think though that there's certain parts of the team that you still need, that you cannot chop and change all the time. And for me, defense is one of those elements of the team that you need and can't keep chopping, especially if you're going to play with 4 at the back. I think those 2 central defenders are crucial and they need to have a partnership, and I think they need to have good communication, good understanding. They need to know where the other one is, who's marking who, who's picking up where, who's dropping off and who's pushing up. They need to know those things, and I don't think Ngezana and Poisons were 100% linked up. I think both of them are good man markers. I think they hustle for the ball, they good in the air, but I think there was a breakdown between them. I think they did not click that well, and you see this in how they went for the same ball in that first goal when Maile headed the equalizer for Pirates. If you look at that, Ngezana and Poisons were both going for the same ball. No one shouting, no one telling the other one that, this is my ball. Because, as I said, they're good aerially. So they could have easily just won that ball if they had that communication amongst them. And also, if you're changing your defense, that means your whole back line doesn't understand each other. And that's where the second goal comes in. If you look at the second goal for Pirates and how Chiefs loses the ball and they're not quick to push up, instead they go back, and by the time they push up, their left back is left and is putting in one of the Pirates players offside, and that's why they could easily, square the ball and take the lead. I also think in terms of Chiefs' energy in the second half, I think they ran out of ideas, they ran out of steam, and I couldn't see where they're going in terms of them looking for an equalizer. Especially they did well in the first 10 minutes of the game, of the second half, but moving forward from then on, I think from the 60th minute going to the, they went here nor there. I think they had run out of ideas at that point in time. But yeah, man, take nothing away from Pirates. I think Pirates did well. I think, as I said, they were dominating. I think they closed down the spaces that they needed to close down for Chiefs. You didn't see Mpahlela moving anywhere most of the time. You couldn't see when Changase did have the ball, but if you are a supplier and you're looking to supply the ball and you're looking to who you're gonna give the ball, and every time you lift up your head, there's like 2 players surrounding Upiliat, or there's like a group of players surrounding Castro, and you don't know where to pass the ball, and that's when they would give it to Park. I think Park had like 2 shots at target, they were not even on target, but there was like 2 shots where you're like, yeah, but dude, you could have passed the ball. But looking at when he picks up the ball and when he's gonna shoot, you could see that he doesn't have any options because all his, avenues were closed down, and whoever he could pass the ball to was closed. He could only pass the ball back or take a shot. But yeah, man, big up to Pirates. I think they did well in that regard. I do want to mention though that it's disappointing watching any football match and seeing how much, especially in the PSL, how much we still need to improve on certain things. Whether be it technique for me mostly. I think in tactics we probably are up there because now tactics are global. Anyone can, learn and teach and master any type of tactic. But I do think in terms of technique, we quite far. I'll make an example for you. If you look at Ben Mutswari was excellent. I think he did well in terms of his defensive duty, in terms of his passing of the ball. In fact, for me, I think he outshined Umlambo, who I was expecting to do well in the derby. But I think Ben Mutswari outshined him. But if you look at Ben Mutswari, I think he took about 3 shots outside the box, and all of them were the same, over the bar, overheads with no direction. He was not even rushed, he was on his own. But the technique, man, I think we need to do some work in terms of teaching our players technique, them practicing the technique. And I'm not going to compare them with any other, leagues out there. But I think if you look at the goals when you're watching football now, and you look at the technique people apply when they're taking shots and the colors that you're seeing, we don't see that much in the PSL. We do see it. I remember I saw it with that Polokwane and Chiefs game, that goal where Polokwane scored. I think that was one of the great techniques in terms of that goal. But we don't see that as often as we would like. And yeah, man, I think coaches in South Africa, teams, players, they need to just put time into that, But yeah, all in all, the derby was a great success for me. I did enjoy it. As I said, there might be a lot of improvement done, but yeah, just to close off on the derby, shout out to Pirates, shout out to HappyJele. I really did enjoy the role he played. I really did enjoy his leadership skills, man. You were great there, man. Shout out to you and your team. And yeah, before I forget, I was so proud to see Ulinda Mtambo coming in and playing in the derby, man. Proud of you, boy, and watching you play in the derby, watching it, who was coaching you at the derby. You boys just make us proud. So big up to you guys, and we're proud of you. So guys, talking about the derby, I did see a couple of videos going around of some things being poured in the field, some funny stuff being water, whatever that is. Guys, if you follow South African football, if you love South African football, you watch it at the games, so you watch it at the stadiums, you watch it on TV, you follow it. Anything being poured on the ground by anyone who's not a player, guys, or if players are walking around and they're spilling water, or it looks like it's water, it is not water, guys. It's something that has been happening, and it doesn't shock anyone. We've been seeing this for years and years. It's a ritual, man. I think it's something that shouldn't shock anyone. If, as I said, if you guys support our football in this country and you've been following football in this country, that's just something that's being done. It shouldn't shock you. It's just funny though. It really is funny. Like people are now going with their cameras to the stadium and they're just zooming in and catching out these guys who are pouring stuff onto the pitch. And to the guys who are pouring stuff onto the pitch, be discreet. We don't want to see you and your choo-choo things. They be discreet. Do that, while we don't see. Do it, I don't know, do it via your pants. Have a pipe, at the bottom of your tracksuit or something underneath your shoe that just, pours water or, rains onto the pitch or whatever. Be discreet about that, man. We don't want to be seeing that. It's hilarious, man. So yeah, guys, believe it or not, the derby was not the only PSL game that was playing over the weekend. Must say that I did watch the Sundowns, and yeah, I think Pito is doing what he always does. He always comes from, when he has those game in hands and everyone is not watching him, and he just creeps in with those 1-0 scores, and it just, creeps in and creeps in and creeps in. The next thing you know, he's celebrating and he's won the league. And watching them playing against Chipa United, I think they were just playing for a win. And once they scored that goal, in the second half, they went into this defensive shell, which is funny though when you see Sundowns doing it. And when they're doing it to them, and Pito will be talking about parking the bus and all of those things. And now he does it. And I think he does it very well though. And he does it when it needs to be done. Because with Pito, once he comes back now playing the league on the regular, because of the games in hand, and when they were knocked out of the CAF Champions League, and he's back now playing the PSL. I think he has this strategy where all he needs is a goal. If he can get that 1-0 scoreline, he moves on to the next game. And that's how we just, builds up. And the next thing you know, Pito is number one and Sundowns is number one in the league. And yeah, man, big up to them as well. I think they're coming good. I do think, though, just to mention one thing about the Sundowns, is that I do think Uguti Upinzo is a very smart man. He would buy these players and start with them when the league starts. Give them this hope that they will be playing, and these are his best players. But when the league gets tough and he needs those goals, he needs the goals, he needs the wins, he needs the momentum moving forward. He always goes back to his tried and tested. He always goes back to his Ulangaman, Kekane, Mabunda, Vilagaz when he's fit. He always goes back to that trust a group of players that he trusts. So when Masandawana, for instance, was playing, those are his players. Those are his, trust players. But yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see with the Sundowns and how far they go. But I think the Sundowns is going to challenge Kevin Hunt for the league. I think Pirates as well might compete for the league if they, get that consistent run going through and they win more games. Yeah, man. So before I go on into something else about the PSL, let me just mention that I also did enjoy the El Clasico. I think the El Clasico is one of the greatest games one gets to watch. I think that rivalry is one of the best in the world, But how is in Europe that they do what they do with the fans, man? Did you see how far the Real Madrid fans were sitting? They were like glass surrounding them when they were celebrating Marcelo scoring that goal to make it 2-1. They were sitting like probably the farthest corner or the furthest part of the new camp. They were sitting there, and I think I like that about the European stadiums or the European teams, where the home team gets to decide whether the away team is sitting. And I think in the new camp they sit like very far, because I've seen even the Juve fans sitting there. I think it's only in the England teams where you would see them just sitting by close to the pitch, but they're always cordon off as well. There's always marshals surrounding those teams, those fans, those away fans. I enjoy that a lot. I think as any home team, you need to dominate, and you can always, feel the spirit of your fans if you're also just dominating the away fans and just putting them in a far away corner, where they're not sure of what they're seeing, because the new camp is huge, man. I think if you're sitting right on top of the new camp, you probably don't see as clear as, the Barcelona fans are watching the game, But quickly, let me just go back to something I wanted to talk about with regards to the PSL. So this coming weekend, we're going to be watching the Telkom knockouts, and there's been this one match that got everyone talking about the Telkom knockout, which is the Chiefs match. So earlier in April, right, there was that game, the semi-final, Chiefs versus Free State Stars at Moses Mabhida, and we all know what happened there, right? Chiefs lost 2-0 to Free State Stars. The fans invaded the pitch. They damaged the property. Some of them were trying to burn the stadium, and after that, Chiefs were fined. So Chiefs were punished by the league that they need to play 3 games without fans, and the 1 game is suspended for 24 months. So effectively, it's 2 games, right? So Chiefs need to play 2 games in an empty stadium at Moses Mabhida, right? So the DRC ruling was that it was specific. It said you need to play 2 games, and I think they did mention the teams, and the teams happened to be Polokwane and Chippa United, right? And then those were league games, right? Remember, they were punished for playing a cup game. So they were punished, yeah, they were punished while playing a league game. So a cup game, right? So they were punished for that. And now the punishment included 2 league games, right? So that means that anything that happens in a cup game, you can get that punishment handed over to a game that is now a league game. Because effectively it's a PSL who runs all of these things, right? Now, Chiefs are going to be playing SuperSport United this coming Sunday. They're going to be playing SuperSport United at Moses Mabhida Stadium. They have served the one game without fans. They haven't served the second game, right? Now, the game that is going to be playing with SuperSport at Moses Mabhida, they are going to have fans at that game. I know, right? Doesn't make sense. Now, when the league is asked, how does this happen now? They mention, I think they talk about that. Firstly, the game is not Chiefs' game. You know, it's the competition's game. I think that's what they're saying. But also they're saying that because the DRC, in their ruling, they were specific on the matches that Chiefs needed to play without fans. And therefore, this game doesn't really affect that ruling. Again, that doesn't make sense to me. If you put out a ruling, your ruling should say, or needed to say that if you're going to play at Moses Mabhida, you need to play 2 consecutive games. You know, you need to play 2 games in a row without fans. So you play your first game at Moses Mabhida, you go up and play 6 games in Johannesburg. The next game you're going to come and play at Moses Mabhida, you as the home team. Then that game you're going to play without fans. Regardless of who you're playing or what tournament you're playing, you're going to play without fans because that's the punishment that you get. I don't understand how the punishment then adds teams. You know what I mean? And I think because of knowing that Chiefs likes to take some of their games to Moses Mabhida, especially the cup games, I think that's why for me that those 2 games were mentioned, because Chiefs takes the MTN games to Mabhida. They take, I think they did take a few Nedbank games, especially the Nedbank Cup. They like taking some of their cup games to Mabhida. Therefore, the league knew, or the DRC people knew, you know, this is my theory, they knew that Chiefs at some point, they are going to take a league game, and a cup game, and what if that cup game happens in between those 2 games that we've already, you know, mentioned, and therefore Chiefs can play. Which for me doesn't make sense. I think that's not fair. If you're gonna make a ruling, guys, it would be easier to make a ruling and say, listen, you're going to play 2 games at Moses Mabhida without fans. 2 games in a row. That's it, regardless of who you're playing, when you're playing them. But if you're playing today and tomorrow at Moses Mabhida, those 2 games are going to be without fans. For me, that makes sense. You know. Yo, so thank you so much for watching, guys. Before we end off the show, let's just do a bit of housekeeping. So this videos will be coming to you guys on once a week on a weekly basis, mostly between Wednesdays and Thursdays, because I feel that's the good time for me to be talking about the previous games and the upcoming games. But this is not only going to be based on what we see on the pitch and all of that. A few topics are going to be some things that I find very fascinating that are happening outside our game, and yeah, those are things I'm going to be sharing with you guys and conversating with you guys about them. But once again, thank you so much. This has been the 3rd episode of Ringangetis with Ucelo Dlamini. Cheers.